There's a couple of key things people always talk about when they hear the carnivore diet. The first is they say there's nutritional deficiencies to the diet that aren't like sustainable. So if you eliminate certain food groups like fibers, vitamin C's, vitamin E, magnesiums, etc., then which are essential nutrients, then you're going to have problems.
So a carnivore diet theoretically does provide all essential nutrients. So if you look at what is inside animal foods, you will find all essential nutrients. You can't say that of any plant food. There's not a plant food on earth that provides all essential nutrients. Animal foods can, I would say meat, seafood, poultry. Eggs are missing a couple of nutrients, and dairy is missing even more. But meat, seafood, and poultry contain every nutrient we need. The question is, how much do you need?
Like fiber.
Oh, well, fiber's not a nutrient.
Oh, okay. But do you get fiber in a carnivore diet?
There are different definitions of carnivore, but the strictest sort of purest definition of carnivore is animal foods only, and fiber comes from plants, so it's fiber-free. A true carnivore diet is fiber-free.
So could you last on a true carnivore diet without getting some kind of like gut microbiome issue or some kind of, because you need fiber, right?
Why?
Thought it was good for like digestion and your gut microbiome and stuff like that.
What does it do?
A lot of people tell me that it prevents glucose going into the blood or something.
Where's the glucose coming from?
So you don't need it.
Fiber is very helpful, and I spell this out in the book because we have a lot of half-truths in our minds about food. Even people who are paying really close attention to nutrition science have a lot of half-truths in their minds about food. So yes, fiber, for example, you're exactly right, lowers glucose spikes. But the glucose is coming from a diet that's too high in sugar. And so you won't get glucose spikes if you regulate your glucose levels. So that's one interesting thing about fiber. So if you're eating a high carbohydrate diet, fiber can soften your glucose spikes, and that's a plus. But there's a more effective way to lower your glucose spikes is to not get a glucose spike in the first place. And that may not require taking all the carbohydrate out of your diet. It might just mean lowering it to your personal tolerance. Another thing people often say about fiber is that it sweeps your colon clean of toxins and kind of that might otherwise build up and cause problems. But fiber, there's no evidence that fiber is sweeping anything clean, or there's never been a study that demonstrates this. It's really just a belief about what we imagine fiber as being like the broom of the intestines. But there's no, that's just a belief. There's no science behind that whatsoever. The intestines clean themselves. The lining sheds regularly, actually very frequently, and the border of the intestines sweep themselves clean. So the intestine knows how to take care of itself that way. But the biggest myth about fiber is that it's good for digestion, because fiber, by definition, is indigestible by humans. So there are two kinds of fiber. There's soluble and insoluble. And the soluble is, the kind that holds water, it's like in an apple. And the insoluble is the kind of tough, stringy, woody stuff that you might find in like broccoli, for example. So the soluble fiber, the bacteria in the lower parts of our intestine can ferment that to a certain extent. But then we can't make use of the sugars that it's releasing.
I read here, fiber is traditionally considered essential for feeding beneficial gut bacteria and promoting regular bowel movements.
Yes. Okay. So a couple of things to unpack there. So one is that a lot of people, there are quite a few papers on this claiming that we need fiber because we need to feed our cells butyrate, which is a breakdown product of fiber. But butyrate, if you think about what a ketone is, it's beta-hydroxybutyrate, feeds the intestinal cells just as well. So you don't need to eat fiber to feed your cells butyrate. If you think that the cells need butyrate, then you can get it from a ketogenic diet. So I explain that in the book too, is that there's more than one way to generate that molecule.
Can someone exist on the carnivore diet, like the extreme version of the carnivore diet, for a long time without any supplementation?
So we really don't know, and we really don't have any long-term data on any dietary pattern. I think this is really important for people to understand is this very common criticism of diets that we feel uncomfortable with or might be worried about, like ketogenic diets or carnivore diets, because they're so different from what we're told we're supposed to eat. There's a lot of fear and worry about them. And so we'll often think, well, okay, it's normalized my blood sugar level. I used to have type 2 diabetes. I've lost 50 pounds. My depression went away. I normalized my coronary artery calcium score, so I'm at lower risk for cardiovascular disease. My triglycerides came down. I feel better. In every way, like all of my health markers have improved. And so when you show people study after study after study of a ketogenic diet, improving multiple aspects of metabolic health and physical health and mental health, it's cured my seizures, it's cured my bipolar, whatever it was. The last thing somebody could say is, well, yes, okay, it's made you extraordinarily healthy now, but I wonder what's going to happen 20 years from now. Mm-hmm. Nobody can tell you that because there's no way you could design a 20-year-long study of any diet. So you could say this about the Mediterranean diet. You could say this about a carnivore diet. You could say this about a vegan diet. Well, vegan diet unsupplemented is fatal. It has dangerous nutritional holes. So why aren't we saying this about vegan diets when we can look at a vegan diet and see that it's incompatible with human life unless you eat fortified processed foods or supplement, which most people in the world cannot do. We look at a carnivore diet and you can actually find all of the nutrients in these animal foods, and that's the diet that you're more worried about because theoretically, long-term, something bad might happen. Now, I am not at all saying that a carnivore diet is the right diet for everybody, or that it's even the right approach for everybody to consider, but I think we have to keep an open mind and stay curious and look at the biology of food and allow people to make their own. I'm nutritionally pro-choice, which means if you came to me with a mental health issue, I would support you in optimizing the diet of your choice and making it as brain healthy as I possibly could, because it's very important that you feel comfortable with the diet that you're eating. And so there are lots of ways to do that. But I think it's really important. And one thing I encourage people to do in my work and in my book is to open our minds and get curious about food, the biology of food, the biology of the brain, because most of what we hear about nutrition doesn't come from biology. It doesn't come from clinical experiments or information about how cells work or about what's actually inside food. It comes from this type of study called a nutrition epidemiology study, which is just questionnaire-based guesswork, untested theories about what we should eat. Most of what we believe about nutrition is untested theories, wild guesses, and wishful thinking.
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favor. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.